Alright everyone, time to review another one of my most anticipated movies of 2017, and that is Wonder Woman. Yeah. Now, obviously we know DC has not exactly been on the winning streak like Marvel has, but thank the Lord, this one delivered. I mean, yeah. Aside from the Dark Knight trilogy, there hasn't really been too much that has been reviewed as good as this film. I mean, we had Batman v Superman, which I thought was pretty decent. Suicide Squad, which I thought was, again, pretty decent. But, as you know, critics and fans were kind of mixed on those films. But thank the Lord, this one kind of changed the tide, aside from the Dark Knight trilogy. So, let's get to the movie, shall we? It obviously revolves around a bunch of women who are on a secluded island, you know, based around Greek mythology. And, well, Diana is the main character, and I didn't really know too much about this character, but thankfully it does introduce itself kind of the same way any comic book movie does, and it's basically a flashback and another flashback, basically backstory, and when she was a kid, and how she trains, and they're all warriors to try to defend against the evil Ares, who's basically the god of war, not to confuse with the video game, no. It's all about, Greek mythology. I know we've seen Greek mythology in plenty of films, Clash of the Titans, Percy Jackson, and so forth. But this film, it's more or less a fish out of water story because basically they're on a secluded island, basically secluded from the rest of the world. It's like a paradise island, sort of, and it's all women, basically. They all fight with bow and arrows, use horses, so they're not familiar with the rest of the world, what they have to offer with guns and cars and planes and so forth. So, in a way, it's kind of like a Thor-like movie because basically it takes place during World War I, obviously, or Great War, I should say. And a bunch of German soldiers are chasing after Chris Pine's character, who we get introduced to, if you probably saw in the trailer. So yeah, keep in mind there's probably going to be some spoilers in this, so you may not want to watch the rest of this video if you don't care for spoilers. But otherwise, Chris Pine's character, as you probably remember, and he did a pretty good job in this film. He's basically trying to put an end to World War I, and he sees it obviously as World War I, but of course, Diana, who is known as Wonder Woman. Yeah, they never actually address her as Wonder Woman in this movie. Keep in mind, it's kind of the same way they never addressed Selina Kyle as Catwoman in The Dark Knight Rises, but you know who the character is to begin with. I mean, but anyway, yeah. Chris Pine's character is trying to end, obviously, World War I. He obviously is siding with, you know, the people trying to fight the Germans, the enemy soldiers, and Diana, known as Wonder Woman, is basically looking at it in another way, thinking it's Ares, the god of war, trying to start in chaos and end humanity. So it kind of clashes its realism with, you know, fantasy, you know, with Greek mythology, and that's where it kind of plays a little bit of a funny role there. So you get a lot of that awkward type of dialogue where they talk to each other, and it's very believable, but it's kind of awkward in an uncomfortable but rather humorous fashion. The way they talk, like how the real world works in comparison to like the fantasy world where she's from. And like I said, it's very humorous and it gets a lot of laughs out of it. The dialogue and everything is very believable. When she walks into the real world, again, it's kind of like Thor, how she's trying to get used to how people live in the real world, you know, modern day world. As she just walks through with her costume on. But when it gets to the fight scenes, it's really good. I mean, it wastes no time on that, especially when they're in the battlefield and she just jumps out over the barbed wire fence. You're just ready to applaud right there because, damn, she's just really badass in this movie. And it's great to see a female lead, which I have nothing against. I mean, I know the movie Ghostbusters last year was kind of ridiculed, and it has nothing to do with that, really. It's just the fact that we wanted to see the original cast back, as opposed to a reboot that nobody pretty much wanted. But this one, it's a different story because it's freaking Wonder Woman. I mean, she's the most badass superhero in the DC universe. I mean, she does for DC like Black Widow does for Marvel. I mean, come on, and I'm still waiting on a freaking standalone film for Black Widow's backstory, but not to get too carried away. Yeah, all I can say is Wonder Woman in this movie is completely badass. I mean, she wasted no time. This film wastes no time getting right to the chase, cutting the bullshit. It just does what it should. And I'm glad it's not like Batman v Superman. Not that I'm trying to insult that movie. I mean, she was badass in that movie as well. But it doesn't feel cluttered with a lot of plot point. Like, they have to throw so much in there. And even for almost the exact same runtime of 2.5 hours, it felt really fast-paced. There was a lot going on, but not too much that it just felt so cluttered like that film. It wastes no time, and it got right to it. The villains were a little predictable, but very badass. But obviously, you know, you got Dr. Poison, and of course, her colleague, who basically gets the strength from inhaling that, you know, drug or whatever the hell it is. And it's interesting, and it's kind of predictable that, you know, he's obviously not Ares like Wonder Woman thought he was. But I do think at the end, though, with Ares coming in the picture, this is the only real major spoiler. I did think it was a little bit rushed there, but once it builds itself up, it gets pretty good. And just to let you know, no, there's no after credit scene, at least to my knowledge. I don't recall anybody saying that there was. And also, I did not see this in IMAX or 3D, and I'm kind of glad I didn't. I mean, you could prove me wrong whether it was really worth it, but I think for the most part, it definitely exceeded the low hype, especially after the, well, rather mediocre streak that DC comic movies have been on. Yep, definitely worth it, and I'm definitely hoping the Justice League get-together movie holds up just as good. I did see the trailer, coincidentally, which played before this movie, but all I could say is definitely great, definitely got some great humor, great action. I just hope, I don't know why they're rushing this before Aquaman. I mean, and all the rest of the DC characters. Shouldn't they do the same thing that the Avengers movies did, you know, develop all the characters before doing the big get-together film? I mean, it would make more sense that way. But, yeah, I know, it's pretty obvious they're doing the same thing. Marvel does it, so DC's got to do it too. So, thankfully, they're getting on the right streak with this film. I just hope they keep it up. My final verdict is, rockin' Weird Mode Wii Motion Plus up, and I think I'm playing Weird Mode up. I hope that's not too harsh, but trust me, it's really good. So, till next time, keep watching.